Hello, and welcome to another episode of How You Like Them Apples, a Cider REU podcast where we get to the core of educational issues affecting college professors. My name is Brandon Lowry. I use he, him, and his pronouns, and I'm glad you're listening. So for today's episode, we are talking about knowledge, which is arguably the focus of many of our listeners, teachers. Well, if it's not the focus, it is absolutely the source of great frustration for countless students and teachers progressing through college in spite of what is seeming to be a never-ending pandemic. The concept of knowledge is confusing at its best, and recently I encountered a good friend of mine struggling with the idea of what knowledge is, how it is activated, and how it's accessed. Here, take a listen to our conversation and hear his struggle.
Ouch!
Hey, what are you doing?
Well, I'm trying to learn what David Hammer and Joe Reddish meant by framing, resources, and transfer. So, I'm building a picture frame to better understand the concept.
So I think you've got the idea of what framing is mixed up with carpentry. Framing within discipline-based educational research is a bit different. Here, let me explain. Before you can really talk about framing, resources, and transfer, you have to acknowledge another idea, the whole idea of knowledge and what it even is. You see, this person named Andrea DeSessa developed a theoretical framework about it.
Wait, what's a theoretical framework?
Well, it's really just another word for a really big idea with a bunch of assumptions and rules associated with it. It essentially provides the rules for describing your observations in educational research.
Okay, I got it.
DeSessa's framework didn't really offer a singular idea of what knowledge is, but one of the main takeaways is that knowledge depends on context. He suggested that this contextuality of knowledge is the explanation for why little ideas often show up in some instances, but not in others. And this contextuality was in contrast to another idea that claims students have these preformed ideas, what many called misconceptions, and that teachers had to find, uncover, edit, and replace. The misconception framework claimed that experiences we have result in stable beliefs that are robust, static, incorrect, and difficult to change or deal with. Students go into classrooms with these misconceptions or wrong ideas, and once corrected, they move on to the next class and apply the corrected conception to a new topic. At least, that's what a lot of people thought, but that idea has been thoroughly disproven within education research. In contrast to the misconceptions framework, Hammer's framing, resources, and transfer paper suggested that different resources are small, fine-grained elements of knowledge that are neither right nor wrong.
Wait, how can something be completely neutral? Most everything is either right or wrong, right?
Well, DeSessa argued that these bits of knowledge are neutral and are either correctly or incorrectly applied in a given situation or context.
Sounds weird.
I know, but try to stay with me here. The context is determined by the way the message is framed by the subconscious of a student. The frame affects the context and subsequent suite of resources that are activated. And again, this process of forming a frame happens in our subconscious. We aren't even aware of it happening.
Creepy. It's like there's a little person inside your head telling you what to think.
Maybe? The frames our subconscious brain assigns to a certain moment or question helps us determine those behavioral expectations. It is essentially the why are we doing this? How do I accomplish what's being asked of me? And what do people expect me to do right now? The idea of framing suggests that this process of understanding and applying frames is an ongoing process that is continually refined as we navigate a particular issue.
Okay, so let me recap. We have a bunch of little bits of knowledge in our head. Those bits are neither right nor wrong, but are either appropriately or inappropriately applied to a given problem. The way a student frames a problem is what drives the specific activation of certain little bits and not others. And that whole process happens without us even being aware.
Exactly. Now you're getting it.
So my only question now is, what do I do with this picture frame?
So, as you probably gleaned from that conversation, this theoretical stuff can be tricky and difficult to understand. But teachers, what I really hope your takeaway is today is that our students are not blank slates, and they're not pre-filled slates either. They come in with lived experiences and bits of knowledge that are ready to be accessed and activated, but that activation ultimately depends on context. Until next time, this is Brandon with How Do You Like Them Apples, a Cider REU podcast. Be well.